Zard Show. Welcome to the Zard Show. We're gonna talk about music and do a whole lot of and conversate about politics. No, we're not. Sponsored by COVID-19. Sponsored by face masks. Sponsored by it's just the flu, bro. Sponsored by social distancing. Sponsored by here's your somewhat manic host, Zard. Going. All right, everybody, welcome to the Zard Show. I got my second guest, the drummer from OkGo, a little band. You might know them. They have over 500 million streams on YouTube and other platforms combined. He's a really cool guest. So welcome my guest, Dan Konopka. Am I saying that right?
Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for having me, Charles.
Oh, no worry, man. This is going out to 40 people at least. So this is going to be one of your biggest interviews, you know, so no pressure. So I just want to talk about, let's go back to the beginning for Mr. Dan. All right. So what got you interested in music?
You mean really the beginning?
Yeah. Why did you choose drums? Because you could have picked any instrument.
Yeah. No, I totally could have. In fact, I did actually play a different instrument before I started the drums. I played the double bass for my elementary school orchestra. And the reason I got into that was because my oldest brother, he's about 7 years older than me, he played violin and viola in the orchestra. And so growing up as a little kid, sort of listening to what he was doing and hearing all that stuff and just wanting to emulate him and to be involved in what he was doing, I figured I'd start with, the big double bass thing for the orchestra. I thought that was the coolest instrument there. And I did that for about maybe 6 or 7 months and realized that orchestral music wasn't really what I wanted to do. I really wanted to be doing more pop music. And so, and then on top of it, the double bass was so huge, it was a real pain for my mom to move it back and forth from school and to practice and stuff. And she was like, we need to get rid of this.
Something smaller.
And so, I loved the music that I was hearing on the radio, and this is right around, I think MTV had started at this time, and drums were just that was it. That was everything. I was I wanted to play the music that I was listening to, and it was definitely not, a Beethoven. So it was really about the MTV generation and the music that was coming out of MTV and that was on the radio, and my dad got me a snare drum and made me take lessons from this little shop uptown in the town that I lived in. And he said that after I did a few months of lessons, that he considered getting me a drum set. And so at around the age 10 on Christmas, I got a drum set for Christmas, and that at that point I was done. It was everything was drums, all the way to about 13, and then I took a little hiatus from drums to see if I could be a BMX rider, and that failed. And at around 16, drums became a big thing again, and from 16 until now, it's been basically my job. It's been my main source of income. I've had a lot of other side jobs, worked at grocery stores and gas stations and movie theaters and things like that, and had to have other forms of income. But for the most part, my main focus was just playing drums and playing in bands. And then around 1998, the band OkGo started, and we kind of knew right then that there was a real possibility that there could be a future in that. and that's I was bartending at the time.
Oh yeah.
And,
Let's take it back because I'm a vivid researcher. So your Wikipedia page doesn't say OkGo. It says Stanley's Joyful Noise.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that was a real band. That was actually a band that was better than OkGo. It three of the original members of OkGo were that band, and they were fierce. It was like, imagine Stanley's Joyful Noise was like a combination of Metallica, Prince, and the Pixies, and we were so young and had so much energy. And those shows and those recordings were just crazy good. But we never really got outside of Chicago. We were kind of stuck in the same couple clubs. And when Stanley's Joyful Noise ended, Damian Kulash, the lead singer of OkGo, had finished school and come to Chicago, and we started OkGo then.
Right. So you knew the bassist, right, Tim?
Yes.
So you knew him. He's like this crazy guy. He's been playing drum. He's pretty bad BMXer, but whatever. He's a pretty good drummer. We should start a band. And then he met Damian in like high school or something, or some summer camp or something, right?
Yeah. Tim, the original guitar player from OkGo was a guy named Andy. Andy and Tim were the guys I met in college, and we started Stanley's Joyful Noise. Tim and Damian had known each other from when they were like 13, and they had gone to like arts camp and stuff like that, and they became really good friends. So Andy, Tim, and Damian had a relationship. I came in there. Damian finished school. He moved to Chicago, and that's when OkGo started.
Right. So, but when you're doing this, was there a point in this Stanley's band? First off, what's the name? Who's Stanley? None of you guys are named Stanleys.
No. It's been so long ago that I don't really remember where the Stanleys part came from. I think Andy just thought it was a funny name.
Yeah, it is.
And what's funny about that is that's my dad's name. So I was like, it's not that funny to me, but Joyful Noise, I know that was taken from, I think Andy or Tim had gone to some sort of church sermon in Chicago, and the pastor was like, make a joyful noise, and so that's, I don't know, it's a simple name, but it worked at the time, and it kind of worked with the sound.
Right. So was there a point though, like you said, whenever you're in a band or making music, is like there a point where you're like, all right, I don't think this Metallica's Pixie band is working out. I think we need to shift our sound. Like what made that band kind of dissolve? Is it kind of just a natural progression? You're just like, I'm just tired of playing these sort of riffs.
Well, no, I mean, I think the reason that band has a story beyond my involvement. I mean, it's not to get all tragic or anything, but when I had to leave that band because I lived in the suburbs of Chicago, and Andy and Tim were downtown Chicago, and my mom had gotten cancer, and so like I had to sort of downshift a lot of like activities to make sure that I was available to her. And then I also had work, like I was working at restaurants and things like that. So it was just for me to get down in the city. It was difficult. And it wasn't because of the music. It wasn't because of the relationship. It was just like a logistics thing that I couldn't be a part of it. Stanley's went on after I left. It went on for a few months more with a different drummer. And I think things just kind of fizzled with him in the picture. I know that we're still really tight with Joe. He's a really good friend. I just don't know the energy for the band kept going, and I think it just stopped. But I had to stop that because some family stuff got crazy, and I remember it was like, I think I hadn't talked to Tim in a while, and I like called him. I'm like, what's new? And he's like, Damian's moving to Chicago. We're thinking about starting another band. I'm like, oh, like Stanley's Joyful Noise Part 2? And he's like, yeah, essentially, but it'll be totally new stuff because Damian will have his own music and we'll kind of start from there. That's the basic story.
Right. So then you're all about like 21, 22. Sort of
Yeah.
Like, right. And you're just like, okay, let's start this whole thing. So, and how did the OkGo come? How do you pick a name for that?
The name for OkGo is comes from a story that Tim and Damian had when they were at this arts camp. It's kind of a funny, sort of corny story about how one of their art class teachers' assistants would lean over their shoulder, totally stoned, and ask them to do some sort of like still life drawing and be really sort of dramatic about how he was going to get everybody going. And Damian tells the story really well because he was obviously there, but like this stoner guy's like, look at the draw, look at the still life, look at the paper, look at the still life. Okay, go. And that's how the name came up. It's
right.
It just, honestly, when I first joined the band and they were like, they wanted to call it OkGo, I was like, well, it's okay, it's a fine name. Like, I don't give a shit about that stuff. I was just like, whatever name's good, let's just make music. And really, I thought one of the nicest things about the name OkGo was just the way it sort of looked. You've got it's just there's a symmetry about it, and it was easy to remember, and it evoked movement, and that's good. That was it.
Yeah, I just didn't know like if you had like a input into it, or there was other names floating around. You're like, oh, it's OkGo, or we're thinking of like salmon, God, Jesus. I don't know.
yeah.
Fence.
It's funny. I usually don't mess with that sort of stuff. Like for the first 15 years of the band, like basically I was like, I would say yes to anything. And when it came to the concepts of what the videos were going to be, like I was just kind of like, I didn't really, it was just like, whatever you guys think is cool, as long as we're doing stuff, I'm excited. Like I would play the drums, I play my parts. Those guys have things to say about the parts. I had nothing to say about the vocals, very little to say about any melodic content. Was just like, I just wanted to make sure the drums felt great and that they sounded good. It wasn't until the last 10 years that I started really getting more involved with songwriting and producing for that band.
But when they got in your wheelhouse of a rhythm section, you're like, no, this is how it has to go.
No, I was never, I wasn't stingy about my parts. Whatever they threw at me, like if something was in an odd time or something was tricky, or everybody was pretty good at programming drums, and they would send me the demo, and it would be like, Dan, this is how we'd like the drums to be, and I'd be like, okay, well look, I only have 2 arms and 2 legs. Some of this stuff isn't going to ever happen. Right. So I would try to funnel their ideas into something that was going to be really practical for a human to play. And then, after some time, I'd be able to add more of my own sort of creativity in there. But it was really, like it was a band sort of decision what the drums were going to do. But at the end of the day, I had to play them. So I had to make the parts work for myself and then for the band.
Right. So now you guys are a new band, you're 18, 20, or whatever, you're 21, 22, you're in Chicago, you're all jamming again together. This is one of the things that I would like to try to explore the most is like, how does a band, things have changed, obviously, a lot has changed, but how did you guys start getting traction, in the very beginning? Like, tell us about that first, formative, how do you get your name out there? What are you doing?
Well, for us, in Chicago, we had a couple of pretty good moves that we pulled off to just sort of get ourselves known regionally, and especially just in a city as large as Chicago. Getting to make a splash there was kind of a difficult thing to do. There was so many bands, and it was pretty saturated. The 4 or 5 nightclubs were tons of bands were coming through, and we really had to figure out a way to sort of cut through all that noise. One of the things that we did that proved to be very effective, although illegal, was we made our own screen printed posters. So like Damian at school, he had a good part of his college education was graphic design. And so he made a lot of the posters that we would go out in the middle of the night and weed paste across town. We're talking like between 300 to 500 posters per show.
Wow.
And we play maybe once a week or twice a month. And we would go around the city and weed paste these posters up everywhere. And it was like, you could tell like holy cow, like OkGo has got a show. And, if we were playing at the Metro, we'd put up 500 posters all where, like near the subway tracks and the elevated train tracks, like anywhere we knew hipsters were going to be, there was posters there. And we're talking lots, like a professionally done postering thing that we would do for the show.
Set up, were you guys like just this team, this ragtag team of like ski masks? You guys have 300 posters. All right, let's go.
Yeah, like 3 a.m, buckets filled with wheat glue, and we would leave at like 2 a.m. and try to, like, 2 cars would go out, 2 guys per car, and we would just cover the city in these posters. And so like one time we got a message from the owner of the Metro, who's Joe Shanahan, really, really great guy, super supportive, really got us to sort of get where we needed to be in town. He told us that he had gotten like a $3,000 citation from the city because the only name on the posters aside from the band was his club. And so we were like, oh no. And he's like, I paid the citation. You guys are good to play your show, but limit this. And I think we did it maybe 3 or 4 times again. But at that point, everybody in town knew who we were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Guerrilla marketing.
Yeah. Big time.
Oh, what the heck is this? That's crazy. I did not know that. So you're doing this guerrilla crazy marketing campaign. And never the law, nothing, no one ever got caught, no one ever got any.
No, I mean we got sort of a wrist slap with the citation, but I think at the end of the day, it was like within 6 months we went from playing, like 150 cap rooms to playing 2,000 cap rooms, and so
wow.
the city, they sort of liked us, like the fans in Chicago, they dug in, and I think we had like really good press for those shows, and we would put on a pretty distinctly different kind of show than what was commonly happening in Chicago. There was a lot of post rock and like sort of rock jazz that was happening in town, and then there was Disturbed, who were doing like that sort of new metal kind of thing, and we were like right in the middle and just different enough that we were sort of cutting through. And then we were making these posters. People were just curious about us,
right?
And then lastly, like we're also sort of whores in terms of like trying to play shows. If there was a great band coming through town, we would try to open up for them and get on the big bill, do the big poster, and the show would be would go off great. So
being proactive, being on top of it, guerrilla marketing, doing all these things, and it's a synergistic cycle that allowed you to gain momentum.
Totally. It really was. You really got you got back what you put in, and it seemed like a lot of the bands that were playing, they would play the show and they would just sort of hope that people would be psyched about it, but we realized that a ton more work really has to go into it to really cut through.
Right.
And we worked our butts off to really get on the map. And
were you guys generating revenue at this time? Do you have T-shirts, CDs, anything like that, or were you just kind of thinking like, let's just play these shows, man? They're pretty cool.
No, we hit on all cylinders, man. We made shirts really early on. We made 2 3-song EPs that we sold. We tried to do everything we could to get things going. I remember there was one show. There was one show. It was early on, and we sold it out. It was at the Empty Bottle. It was like maybe 350 capacity room, and we had our merch and stuff. And at the end of the night, the owner came up, Bruce came up to us and was like, "All right, who do we write the check to?" And Damian's like, "I'll take the check." And it was like $2,500, and I was like,
wow,
whoa, $2,500. So it was like, this is a big deal. It was so big, and we took that money and we bought a van.
Wow.
Bought a conversion van, and we got a trailer for it, and then we were kind of good to go national at that point.
Right.
So that's just kind of how it went.
You got this big payday, you got this check, you're doing great stuff locally. 25 for when you're young 20s, $2,500 seems that's infinite amount.
Yeah, you're like, what?
So far, yeah. F you, Dad. I told you, Dad. I told you I'd make it.
We're gonna start a checking account in the band's name. So yeah, I mean, for me, I was like, wow, this is great. I'm like, everything just had a very good positive sort of momentum, and it was definitely connected to the work we were doing. But we were kind of unresting, very passionate about getting this thing off the ground. And at the time, there was no internet. It was just like word of mouth and just hit the streets trying to get yourself out there. And then, of course, having good songs and good shows was everything.
So you built this momentum. You got this local done. You got a van. Maybe you're doing some more like regional shows, maybe even like national shows. What is the thing that gets the attention? What is that thing? Was there one singular moment? Was there something that like a label hit you up, or a manager? What took you to that next like peripheral level, if you want to call it?
Yeah. Well, I think it was a combination. I think in terms of getting the label attention, we had finished the two 3-song EPs, and we had basically, there was part of a full record that we hadn't released as a full record. Damian had written 3 more songs that were definitely designed to be major label sort of fodder. Like we wanted to get the attention of the major labels. And it was right around the time that we had done some national touring with They Might Be Giants. They Might Be Giants had a manager named Jamie Kitman, who was close friends with some pretty high-powered entertainment lawyers in New York. We sent this new 3-song demo to him and to those guys, and they got it in the hands of some of the major labels. There was a little bit of I wouldn't say it was a bidding war, but there was some back and forth with some of the majors, and we ended up settling with Capitol Records. And that was in 2000. Mm-hmm. Everything was kind of going fast. Like within 2 years, we had gained some of the attention from the majors, and then we started sitting down with the lawyers and figured out what a contract would look like for us.
Right, because at that point you had nothing written up between you, the band members, nothing, just kind of just all playing. You have a band, that's about it. At the end of the show, okay, here's what we got this night. Here we go, just kind of under the table stuff.
Yeah, when we signed with Jamie, who was representing They Might Be Giants, and then we felt like a real operation. Like we were like had a real organization around us. We had a touring agent, we had a day-to-day manager, we had our head manager, we had a lawyer, and it was time to start relationships with the major label, and then we got signed, and that's when really sort of the craziest work started happening, where we were flown out of Chicago and stayed in LA for 6 months to make our first record. And I mean, that's when shit got crazy.
When did you start getting stressed?
Yeah, that's when there's real stress. It was all fun up until that point, and then it got real serious because, you started, the record contract was huge. I mean, even today's standards, it was a massive record contract. It was, 7 figures or
Wow.
6 figures at least, and we had to make a music video, and so we had to talk to real video directors and things like that, and photo shoots. And
This is like the beginning, like 2003, right? This is still like you guys are just kind of percolating, right? You got this stuff. And did it feel like before you got that record deal, did it feel like you could feel something coming, like when these people were kind of bidding, or was this kind of like a surreal moment at that point? You're like, whoa, this is like we were just playing, and now we're talking to who? We're going really.
Yeah.
Like you wake up in LA, you're like, I'm really in LA.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it not only did it happen in a big way, it happened in a quick way. We were basically sitting around, Chicago as this stuff was happening with the lawyers. And I remember I was working as a bartender, and I got a phone call from my manager, and he's like, tomorrow's your last day. And thank God my employer at the time was super cool, and they were up on what we were doing. But I was like, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I'm leaving. I'm like, it was like, boom, all of a sudden it was time to go to LA and make a big record with a big producer and all sorts of stuff like that. It all happened within months.
Was there any tension that like occurred in the band? Because once things are getting serious in contracts, did you guys ever have any infighting? We're like, oh, this is.
Well, there was tension sort of built into the thing. I mean, obviously, when you have, the lead singer is one of the main writers. Tim was the main writer. I didn't write anything. When we finally got to LA, it became pretty clear that the focus was on, making sure the lead singer looked great, making sure the music sounded great. I was essentially replaced on our record, our first record. 5 different session drummers came into play on the record, which was like a huge learning experience. It was an ego smashing thing, but at the end of the day, it was just the way big Hollywood records got made. You'd be lucky if you played on your own record back in those days.
Wow.
And so yeah, it was tough. I mean, it was tough. I mean, in terms of we're smart enough to know that there's a lot more to the way bands got paid and the way things really ought to run. I don't think young bands really know right away, like who owns publishing, who owns the rights to these songs. If just because you play it on the song, it doesn't mean that you're entitled to royalties.
Yeah.
So we made a lot of smart internal band agreements that basically protected the non-writer and fairly compensated the writer. But we made sure that everybody got taken care of. You hear terrible stories about big bands with drummers that are they don't get a slice of that publishing pie, the writer's share, and we sort of knew that going in, and so we made
Awesome.
we made good calls about that stuff.
Are you guys on ASCAP or BMI?
We're BMI.
Oh, okay. Good man.
Yeah.
So now, you don't really find success right away. Once the first record's done, you don't really find success right away, do you?
Oh, not in our case. I mean, we had put out this first record, and there was all these radio promotion plans to make sure that we got played all over the country and things like that. And the very first video that we made for our first single cost, I think, $400,000.
Wow.
And it never even made it to MTV. And things like that happen. You know, you're just like, you do the best you can, and then there's a lot of art by committee, and things get adjusted and cleaned and fixed, and then it goes out to the public, and you can just hope that things resonate. And our first record, it did okay regionally in the Midwest and a couple of major cities, but it wasn't by any means a huge success.
Right, because you were kind of growing up in like the golden age, if you want to call it, of music, because there was still mountains of money to be made in CDs and everything else. So they could blow $400,000 on one video. Oh, it didn't do well. We got 6 other artists that are making us, X amount of money.
Totally.
Wow. Okay, so you're struggling for a while. I think it was like a couple of years. And was that kind of like a little bit disheartening for you? Because you're like, here you are, you're in LA. Oh, now I'm Mr. Big Shot. I got, we got this label deal, and you're like, here we go. And everyone's just like, oh, well, sold like 1,000 copies. I mean,
well, we did okay. We had a pretty good first year of touring on that record. When it came to following up the first single, that didn't work out great. I think we started to feel a little bit concerned about what was going on professionally, after, maybe a year and a half after the record came out. And but again, like, I can only speak for myself. I was just psyched to have a job. I was psyched to be able to go all over the world. At that point, we had been to England and Japan, and those things that was everything. I was like, I made $1,000 a month for 10 years, and I made my ends meet, and it was really just about having this cool life experience, and it was okay. When it came time to make the second record, that was more of like, okay, we had to make more strategic minded decisions about who we were going to work with, where we were going to do it, make sure that it was all going to be internal in terms of the creativity and the production of the album. And so we went and made that second record in Malmö, Sweden, which was, you couldn't be any further away from LA. And we worked with a producer that was like, he didn't work like an LA producer, and that suited us just fine.
Yeah, why? That's the question I've had since the beginning of just doing some research. Why the hell were you guys in Malmö? What the hell?
Well,
is it just one guy you met? He's like, oh, come to Malmö.
Well, it was a producer that had worked with a few bands that we really liked. We loved the Cardigans. Oh shoot, I'm forgetting his name. It'll come to me. But he worked with the Cardigans. He worked with Franz Ferdinand. He had a really good track record, like legit hits under his belt. He had a tiny little studio in Malmö. We knew that we weren't going to have any A&R folk coming down on us over there. And we went there, and we knocked out our second record in, I think, 60 days, which was great. We tracked everything without a click. We just played as a band in a room, and we just went for a vibe and energy, and it turned out great.
It's good. You guys take the train over to Copenhagen?
Yeah.
So oh yeah. Okay, go to Copenhagen. Nothing to do in Malmö. You got to work over there. You can have Copenhagen. Okay, so you do this, you put out the second album, but the thing that kind of turns it around is when I really think of OkGo, I think it's really like the first. I mean, MTV is obviously the product of music videos that were taken off, but it's really like the first internet music visual band that I can really think of. And you guys focus so much on visual. The music's great, it's top notch, but I think what people know from just like a one-off, oh yeah, this is the visual band. So tell us about this video. It's called Here It Goes Again. You might know about it. I'm gonna share it on this other screen. But when did this, because this is the thing that really set the internet on fire and kind of made you guys pop off. This is Dan over here on the side. He's the one who's clapping. So I'll just play just a little bit of that. But how do you go from recording in Malmö, doing this, having a record deal, having the first, $400,000 video go, and you're like, well, you know what? How about $1,000 and 4 treadmills? See how you like that.
Well, I mean, the public knows that was how the sort of ice was broken officially, in the major way for us. But we had done over the years. I mean, Tim and Damian had always been doing creative sort of art pieces all along, and we had made a bunch of different, like just sort of for ourselves kind of visual things that incorporated the music. And we had done a video for a song off of that record. We had heard that Michel Gondry wanted to make a music video for Kanye West, actually, and it was a choreographed video treatment, and so we videotaped ourselves doing a dance in the backyard of Damian's house. This is before the treadmill video, and it's really goofy and charming, and we didn't do it for the world to see it. We did it as an audition tape, and it had gotten leaked onto the internet by friends. And we knew, like it was getting shared a lot. It was getting shared more than anything we had done previously. More spins on iMovie or whatever it was, that Go Movie or whatever people were watching, YouTube like content back then. And so we knew that, when we make the things that we really like, and we make them in earnest and with a genuine and authentic spirit, it seems to always resonate better and resonate more clearly with the fans they're going to enjoy what we do. And so knowing that, Damian's sister, who's an ex-ballroom dancer and a choreographer, had an idea for us to do a choreographed routine on treadmills. And so we went down to Orlando where she lived and bought these treadmills and just put our like nerd thinking caps on and tried to figure out something that was going to be entertaining, it was going to be cheap to make, and was going to really be the type of stuff that we like. And I remember making it and coming home. At that time, I moved to New York, and I came back home, and I had the treadmill video on a VHS tape, and I showed it to my girlfriend at the time, and I'm like, what do you think of this? She's like, I don't know. Who knows what, like, you guys make weird shit. Like, this is about as weird as it gets. We'll just see what happens. And it was right around the time YouTube was coming up. And so it had been seeded to YouTube and became like this first rock band viral video. And I think at the time, MTV was still playing videos, and they were it was a story, it was like we got on USA Today because we were making, something we did that was so quirky and fun, was getting a lot of attention. And so MTV had us come to the VMAs that year, and we performed it live, the treadmill video on the VMAs, which was to this day probably still the most horrifying experience I've ever had in my life. Really, really scary, the most nervous I've ever been. But we did it on that show, and nobody bid it. And shortly after that, we were nominated for a Grammy, and we won the Grammy for Best Video that year. So these things all happened. It was like, make the video, put it on YouTube, MTV, boom, Grammy, and then it was like, you're the video guys, you're the video band. Like within a year and a half, all this stuff had gone down, even less time.
That's what I think is really funny, though, just how the landscape has changed of content, because I feel like what you guys did, if it was released today, would be like maybe a 15-second or 30-second TikTok video that would get 100,000 likes, and that's it. Next thing,
right.
this kind of early petri dish of internet culture. It's just like just took off, and that's why it's crazy, because this is like, I guess, one of like the thing that took you from like underground mid range to like this. And tell me about that freaking whirlwind, because your life changed within like someone hit upload. I don't know who did one of you guys like locally just upload the video? Was it like Damian who's like, yeah, I'll put it up?
I think it was. I don't think the label was very psyched about it. I think they were like,
I'm sure like, not. They're like, what is this?
Like, no, not this isn't going to work out. I mean, there's some quotes I can't remember. It's a long time ago, but there was some people at the label that said funny things like, if this ever sees the light of day, we're sunk. OkGo's over. Shit like that. You know, you're like, okay, well, here it goes, and it goes up, and yeah. In terms of whirlwind, I mean, it's funny. Like being on tour is a whirlwind. I mean, just being like in a van or on a tour bus 9 months of the year. You have no like real relationships with people at home anymore. You know, you're just constantly on the go. So it's just like different, more interesting, more comfortable levels of doing the same shit. You know, you're just like, okay, instead of staying in, you know, I think we were in Germany when the Grammy thing, like we had to fly home from Germany to go to the Grammy Awards and then fly back. It was just a total mess, and our whole existence is a whirlwind. And but it's not like a whirlwind like, oh wow, all of a sudden we're riding in limos and, you know, our bank accounts get fat. You know, they're just.
Well, yeah, I think we should explore more on this topic, because when people think of success, they think, oh, you did it, man. You made it. Like your life is made. But you don't understand that the more successful you get, the more that you talk about this level of sacrifice. Like, yes, it depends what you want your life to be, because after that video happened, your life got a lot more complicated. Like you said, you were on the road more. You didn't have home friends anymore. Things got even more complicated. You got to do more exciting things, but there's a price for that success. And it ultimately comes down to like what you want to do. Right.
Totally.
Was there a point where after, because you guys have made several videos, was there ever like a point maybe like halfway through the career, you're like, oh man, if I just picked a band that just did regular things?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I guess there was a little part of it. It was like kind of, I don't know. Again, this is a while ago, and my opinions, I think, changed over time, because it's, you know, there was the band that was playing in Chicago, and all we wanted to do was tour, and then then there was the band that all we did was tour, and we wanted to have more conventional success. And I mean, at every stage, you kind of want things to look a little different. But for me personally, it was just like, as long as I got to do it, as long as, like, you know, as a crew, as a group of guys, as long as we were getting along, as long as we're having fun and making cool stuff and things are resonating, it was like kind of a perfect world. I can only speak for myself. I loved every stage that the band had gone through. Trying to figure out what to do once you hit a new stage. You know, once we knew that people were thinking of us as the band that makes music videos, do you retreat from that idea and try to go back to the old model, or do you take that baton and run the best you can in this new model? And that was sort of the decision we made. It was like, don't look back. You know, if we're going to make another music video, let's make the type of stuff that the nature of this, the vibe of this, let's roll with that, and let's try to keep making great stuff that makes us really happy. And that's kind of like sort of no looking back and just keep making cool stuff. I don't know.
No,
Kind of hard to describe.
no, I see. But was it also because when you have such success and so fast, because it really was like one of these first kind of viral things, like, whoa. Did you feel like you had like a lot of this before, like you guys just got signed, there was a pressure there, but once you had this video with like, 30 million views, is there just like this huge pressure? Like, well, what, I think sometimes like, maybe like there's the band The Weeknd, when he released that project and like Starboy, it got crazy, it's 1 billion views. How do you, that pressure to follow up is just immense and massive, isn't it? Because like, what do I do now? We did the treadmill. Was there that kind of pressure, or would you kind of just guys go more like, oh, we're authentic, let's just keep being ourselves and putting things out there, let's focus on the music and the art?
Yeah, well, it was pretty much the latter. I mean, I don't think we would, in terms of scope, it wasn't like, it was like there was a hope that every video would be better than the next conceptually. We just always wanted to make something more interesting to ourselves. I don't think we really got too far into the weeds about like, oh, we need to rack our brains, and this has got to be another, this has got to be something better than the last. It was just like, it ended up being a nice continuation of the spirit of where we're coming from. Obviously the budgets change and the scope of the projects change, and but I don't think we're really that concerned about making sure that the YouTube numbers were always going up. They ended up doing that, but I think it was really the hope was that whatever we were doing was going to be more equally exciting or more exciting to us, and therefore as a result was still exciting to the public.
So speaking about budgets, there was this other video which I'll share a little bit too, is this one. So when you did this getting video, crazy video, by the way, if no one's ever seen it, just definitely check it out. How does someone, when you're, I'll get a little further in the video as you get past it, but once you start really going, who is paying for this? What label is like, all right, we got to get all these pianos out here? How many times did you guys rehearse this? Give me more of the logistics of something like that.
Well, I mean, that was right around the time that we split relations with the label, and we started making, we were starting to make relationships with corporate sponsors that were totally not in the music industry, and we were making OkGo music videos that were part and parcel, kind of like advertisements for the sponsors, and that's a Chevy paid for spot, and they used a portion of that in a Super Bowl commercial, and so it was incredibly freeing to leave the normal major label confines and work with
was that
the company.
Or was that just a split? I mean,
between the label?
Yeah, was it a break?
Pretty amicable. I mean, there's a lot of details of what, when you're the YouTube band star and the label hadn't quite figured out a way to monetize all those views. I think it was pretty easy math for them to say, hey, well, maybe you guys should go do this on your own. This isn't working out for us the way we want to. I mean, we were very visible, and we had a lot of eyeballs on us, but I don't think the label was making the type of money that they could be making from a band like us now. You know what I mean? So like we split from that label, and the timeline of all this is more in depth and detailed, but we left that label, and we were able to create relationships with partners that were excited about letting us chase, our artistic, ambitions with them sort of as the sponsor of it. And so that's how the business model kept going after we left Capitol Records. That was 2010.
You guys did your own label, your own music for yourself. And so that's the thing is a lot of people think a label deal is awesome. It's amazing. And it is freeing, especially when you first get started. The money is a freedom, but the label life is not a great life. I mean, there's some benefits, there's obviously, but it really stifles creativity and freedom a lot of the times, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who you're talking to. I mean, for us, it was, I think hindsight's 2020. Like, I don't think we'd be where we're at today without the label. We're definitely grateful to the support and help. I think there was moments when we felt like they could have stuck by us a little bit more carefully. But at the end of the day, like I think we shared in the lift to get the band up and going and into people's lives and stuff. I mean, we've been nominated for 2 Grammys since, and we haven't won. And I think that's largely due to the fact that we don't have a label supporting us. We were nominated, which is fantastic. But without having that machine there to help you.
Political.
Yeah, like.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, these guys are really great. You should definitely this be a category for your nomination. That's how it really goes.
Right. Yeah.
You've lived in LA, California for a while now. It's a lot of one-to-one connections.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm grateful for our time with Capitol, but when we left and we were able to sort of drive our ship the way we wanted to in terms of our business model, it ended up being really, really a good move for us. We were able to make exactly the type of art we wanted to do, and the conversations about the way it was going to look or how it was going to come off wasn't between us and our A&R guy or the president of the label. It was us and the CEO of Chevy, and those in the ad agencies that work with those companies.
Now, was a band that was going out and getting these sponsorships now that you're on your own, or did you hire someone? Was it like your manager, or who was putting these deals together?
It was pretty much internal band stuff, and the manager was involved, and the deal points would have to go through a manager and stuff like that. But I think there was a good period of time where the ad agencies that represented these companies would come to us and they say, we have Kraft Cheese has a new macaroni and cheese noodle, and what do you guys think about making a video with that? And that's just a phony example, but that's kind of like people started approaching us, and like the video, I don't know if you were going to get to it, but there's a video we did in Zero Gravity.
That of course. Now for me, I'm a space enthusiast. That is my favorite video. There is the funniest thing. But there's this funny moment on this one right here where everyone just sees the video, but this is like behind the scenes one.
Yeah.
And there's just like this, people don't understand. Like, first off, you look so uncomfortable. So that is an uncomfortable man. But if you can hear this clip, it's like in between they're doing all this acrobatics and stuff. You hear there's like this like crazy. You guys should have left that in the video of the crazy Russian guy. Like you're doing these acrobatics and then heavy Russian speaking. Man, that looks like the most uncomfortable thing you have ever done.
Oh yeah, that was the tough one. And it's funny, there's a ratio between how difficult and painful our videos are and how successful they are. It's like if you're in a lot of pain and discomfort and uncertainty, there's a good chance the video is going to do well. It's like a pretty decent ratio.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like that was a company that came to us and they were like, we're privately owned airline in Russia. We want to see if you guys have an idea. And we had this pretty long living pet idea, like we should do a video in Zero Gravity. And here was the opportunity to do it.
But halfway through, when you're hanging on that thing, you're like, all right, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Was it? You guys, I bet afterwards you guys like, we bit off way more than we could chew on this one.
Well, I think there's strength in numbers, and I know it was. I mean, I think at the time my son was maybe 1 year old, and I had to fly to Russia and go on this plane and do 2 flights a day for 30 days. Like it was incredibly uncomfortable and nerve wracking. But I know that, you know, with my bandmates, you know, we do crazy shit, and I was like, I felt pretty darn secure with the crew I was with, and I knew that with the level of creativity and brains that are involved with this band, I think I felt pretty comfortable we were going to come out with something awesome. And but yes, no doubt it was uncomfortable. I mean, people were throwing up. Band members never threw up because we had extra special medicine, but you know, people were barfing, people were passing out. It's a super physically demanding thing to do. The nice thing is that whenever I go on a domestic flight, it's just easy breezy. Like, people get real nervous about turbulence. I'm like, pfft.
Yeah, get over this.
That ain't nothing.
Now, was there any like ever mishaps or on you guys have done so many videos. You got this Rude Gore, this, you know, I forget the
Goldberg.
Yeah, Goldberg machine and all. Were there any like every mishaps or misaccidents or any like during these whole filming, these choreographies? You're like, or was there ever an idea like, we just can't do this one? Honestly, we got to stop this production. This is just crazy.
Well, you know, there was there was never any like mishaps, but you know, there'd be off camera things where you'd be like, oh man, have we bit off more than we can chew? I mean, obviously the zero gravity one was nerve wracking, and there was things that you couldn't, you know, I mean, we didn't know, none of us knew Russian, so like the language barrier was tough. But when we did a music video with dogs, and we were there was probably like a dozen dogs in our video, and you know, the dogs were good for X amount of hours of shooting in the day, but like if a dog slipped or whatever, like that was no dog got hurt in our video. But I mean, it was definitely like, you know, we had the trainers of the dogs, and you know, if a dog just decided he didn't want to shoot anymore, you were kind of screwed. You'd be like, what? You know, come back tomorrow and do it again. I mean, there's just a lot of embedded stress in all these videos, but like no one ever really got hurt. There was one video where we did for a song called "Do What You Want," and we had a lot of extras in the video who were doing sort of like extreme things on this in matching outfits, and one of the stunt people was like professional super pogo stick jumper guy. Oh. And he had like a pogo stick that was so strong he could do a backflip. Well, I decided that, like, why not? I'll give it a shot and I'll try to do this thing, and I ended up slipping and I broke a rib. That was bad. Wow. In the middle of shoot. That was bad. I had to go to the hospital, and that was very painful. It's like, oh. But I'd have to talk to the other guys to figure out what other crazy mishaps happened. Not too many come to mind.
And so you also, like, in the beginning of this interview, that you were the most nervous you ever been was at the VMAs, you know, doing that thing. But it also says that you played Barack Obama's 50th birthday bash or something.
Yeah.
You were that. For me, I would be like, that. How nervous can you be? I feel like that would be way more stressful. Like, why was the VMAs the most nervous show and not, you know, Barack Obama or being on the Colbert Report or any of these other places?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it comes down to the main thing is that, you know, if you're playing your instrument 9 months of the year for 10 years, to play your instrument in front of Barack Obama or anyone is kind of just another show. You can sort of distance yourself from the awe of this great president and this great event. that night was what was more exciting about that night was seeing the Secret Service and what they had to do to sort of make sure the facility we were in was safe. Mm-hmm. That was more exciting than actually playing the drums. It just was playing another gig. The VMA thing was horrifying because we had one chance to do the treadmill video that took, 8 days to get right. And we were doing it on live TV in front of, Snoop Dogg was there and Justin Timberlake and Beyonce and like all these, not even peers, like these superstars that were going to get their first, showing of what we were. And I mean, like, we're not dancers. So it was like doing this thing on treadmills was totally horrifying. It was extraordinarily horrifying. It was like, I never practiced this as a life love kind of thing. It was like, this is just a crazy stunt. And so yeah, that was still more nerve-wracking than the Barack Obama birthday party by far.
Has there ever been any drawbacks with fame or any crazy fan stories, or people just not leaving you alone? You got any of those horror stories, the unseen parts of being a band and having to deal with this shit?
Not really. I mean, I've been relatively quiet. I don't do a lot of the interviews. Like, this is maybe one of 50 interviews that I've done in the last 10 years. I mean, I just don't get interviewed very often, so I don't get stopped at the airport or anything like that. Tim and Damian, because they're much more visible characters in the band, their privacy is sort of infringed upon a little bit, but I'm able to sort of go under the radar.
Okay.
Which I'm grateful for. I kind of knew that it would be better to be like more of like mysterious.
Right, you get to experience everything. You get benefits, but you don't have to deal with oh man. That's
right. So like, I wouldn't say that fame has ever manifested in anything negative for me. I think some people think that we make a lot more money than we do. And they think that I live in some palatial place in the Hollywood Hills, and it's not the case. I mean, it's just money just doesn't work like that. But that famous thing is, it doesn't match the reality of it, of the finances and stuff. I mean, it's very, fame is funky, and I don't really care much about it. I don't think of myself as famous, and if we are famous, big deal. Like, right. I just want to make cool stuff.
Music and the authenticity and following your creativity. That's why you did it. You didn't start drumming when you were 10 years old because you're like, I want to be famous one day. I mean, some people do, but
right.
So take us to like current day. What is the band doing to try to stay relevant? What are you guys pursuing? And how do you guys all talk? I mean, you're a band of 40-year-old guys. How does a band of 40-year-old guys stay in touch, stay in communicate? You guys got a group chat. What are you guys doing?
Well, right now in the COVID thing, it's like everybody else. We speak to each other, just like any other group of creatives. I mean, we get on Zoom calls and we stay in touch. We're all dads now. I'm the oldest dad. I have an 8-year-old. The other guys have kids under 3, and so they're in dad mode pretty big time. I don't really see or speak to them that much. We have other things that we're doing where we're in contact, but it's not like we're playing shows right now, obviously.
Yeah.
We put out a music video and a song a couple of months ago called All Together Now, which was done remotely from each other, and that went really well. That was really just a music video sort of trying to support the frontline workers and sort of keeping the creative juices rolling and the songwriting juices rolling, and but wasn't like sponsored by anybody. It was just something that we did. one of the things that happened that's really, really awesome and really, really close to our hearts is when the Rube Goldberg video came out, turned out a lot of educators around the world were using that video in their classrooms. And so I'd say about 2.5 years ago, we started working with some educators to sort of repurpose our music videos for teachers to use in the classroom. And so we started a new side project called OkGo Sandbox. And that is, we sort of like unpack our music videos to the parts that are useful for educators. And we talk about the science and math and things that happen in our videos that teachers can use in the classroom. And we sort of make new like video shorts talking about those things. And we have a educational packet that teachers can use. And that's okgosandbox.org. And you can check that out. And that seems to be a really good thing that sort of keeps us in the mind of younger folks. And when the teachers use it, part of it is showing our music videos. And so there's a lot of kids under the age of 10 that know OkGo that would probably never have heard of us.
Right.
Before.
Mine is like a meme of an image of a guy on a treadmill. And then it's like when the boys go out, and that's
right.
That's kind of all they know. But I think you've had an amazing career that's basically is this culmination of you being a hustler, being a go-getter, taking the opportunities, running with the opportunities, and pushing forward and relying on your integrity and your creative juices. But the last kind of thing I want to talk about is like, how does this translate over your large success of music career and everything? What would you recommend for people coming to this current music scene? Like right now, they're the 14-year-olds out there. They're the young 21-year-olds starting their own band. How do they go forward? Because everything's changed. What would you recommend?
Yeah. Man, it's funny. I'm asked that question a lot. And because, how you and I met was through Sound Better, which is basically my side hustle, which has become a main hustle of mixing and producing and playing drums on people's records and stuff. People ask me that question all the time. And I can't say that I totally understand what the skeleton key is for current day sort of success. I mean, you've got the TikTok, which I don't even know anything about. You have social media, which is totally didn't even come into the picture until way later for us. I think what seems to be the thing that matters the most is that there's two things. Number one, you got to keep constantly making things, keep constantly putting up content. And it doesn't, I'd like for OkGo, it's the same thing. It's just like the music isn't any more important than the videos, and the videos aren't any more important than any other little thing we do. It's all of it has to be constantly be thought about, constantly be generating new things. I think to have your social media accounts constantly being refreshed is really good. I haven't seen that not work for any of my clients. I think overall, and this is kind of funny, I think the most important thing is that it just reduces down to the fact that you have to love what you do. If you're medium into it, it's not going to last. You're gonna run out of juice, or you're gonna have, the worst thing is that, oh yeah, this EP that I'm putting out, these 5 songs are going to put me on the map. I'm like, that's not the idea. Like, there isn't one, you have no opus. There's no opus. It's the continuation of making stuff is the opus. There's never going to be the one smash hit these days. I don't think we have control over that. I think the only thing we have control over is just keep making stuff, and then ultimately just trying to have fun doing it. Like, if you're having fun and you love that process, you're going to be able, it'll be sustainable. And I think if you love it, and people can sense that in the artwork. So I always tell folks is like, if you're sick in something, pause it, start something that you're excited about. Pick that thing back up if you really think it's exciting. If you really think you're going to have fun doing. The stuff you have fun with will cut through. If you're hating it or you're struggling, take a pause. Try something that's going to be exciting to you. I think those two things are the most important thing that I would tell anybody is just have fun, but keep making stuff. Just be prolific.
Brilliant. Well said. We got it. We can't end on anything else. That is as good as you're gonna get. Wise word from Dan Konopka. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Go on the show. The 100 people that watch this, man, they're gonna be like, oh, now they have the secrets to the industry. Thanks so much, man. Super appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. We'll talk later.
That's been another episode of the Zard Show. Thanks for sticking around and being a part of my life. I